Welcome back to the Brogan Tire Tailgate Show here at LaSalle High School as the Moeller Crusaders have just bust their way in here to Lancer Stadium, and a big night of football tonight as the Moeller Crusaders come to Lancerland to battle the LaSalle Lancers. Moeller coming off a tough loss at St. Xavier last week, and certainly they're looking to upset homecoming here at LaSalle. Barrett Cohen along with Brett Schneeber, color analyst on your radio side, former Oak Hills High School assistant head coach, and now we got him off the sideline up here with us. But more importantly, from TriStateFootball.com, he is Greg Shoemaker. Greg, thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Well, thanks for having me out. I really appreciate it.
This is big because you got other commitments tonight. We made mention that you are actually going over to do the Mount Healthy game tonight, right?
Correct. We do for Channel 9. That's who we're affiliated with. And Brandon Seho, who is a former graduate, and we always call him one of the best punters in LaSalle history. He averaged 45 yards on 2 punts in his career. So
change in field position is what we like to call it. Change in field position.
But there's nothing better than a GCL South game. And we cover 144 schools. I think this is just special when you get these two teams, or like Elder and St. X tonight at the Pit. You just don't know what's going to happen until everything kicks off.
Let's take us, folks, back, if we could, to the beginning of how it all started with TriStateFootball.com. I mean, to me, if you go on the website, which I'm sure many people have here, how you cover as many teams as you do, to me, is amazing. But how did it all get started with you and Dan Glaskins, I believe? Right.
Well, Dan's on the other side of the river, and he had relatives at Beechwood, and they were saying the hardest thing for us to do is find scores on Friday nights. Well, this is before Twitter and Facebook and everything else. So, and even talking to Ken Brew and George Vogel, they're like, there's a big market for high school football out there. And we started looking at it. We went in and we developed a website, TriStateFootball.com. We spent $50,000 on that website since we, came into existence. But it's a database-driven website. All that information for years past is there. You can go back and click on our news and click on some of the original news. And as we've gone on, we've had kids. We started off with student beat reporters, but as we've gone on, we found kids and adults who really like covering the game. Tonight, for us at Tri-State Football, covering the game here at LaSalle is former Centerville quarterback Zach Bertram. And Zach ran for 1,000 yards and threw for 1,000 yards 3 or 4 years ago. He's at UC now. And, of course, like I said, Brandon Seho with me, and then we've got... I
can remember when Brandon did this when he was a student here. He did one of your call-ins live from the actual field, and it was just, 4 or 5 years ago, I can remember.
One of the greatest moments, I think, in our turning point of our history is when we started, we were on 96.5 on a live-on-air air show, and Brandon called in one of the first nights, and he was just a freshman, and DeVere Posey was a senior that night, and he got DeVere online for an interview, and 5 minutes after we ended, we get a text message from Brandon saying, "This is the greatest night of my life. I got to interview DeVere." And, and it's been like that ever since. But I think the passion for the people that we have out there is what makes it special. We cover all the schools. And 4 years ago, when the GWAC had 4 teams go to the GWAC Central had 4 teams go to the playoffs, Dan and I were like, we got to cover all these Division I schools in Southwest Ohio. And what makes our rankings even cool is that we got the Waynes, we got the Lebanons of the world in those
Springborough's in there.
Springboro's in there this month. And
how about Lancer Nation, though, with TriStateFootball.com Player of the Week, Matt Kroger? It was the most fan votes of any player so far this year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That says a lot, I think, about the LaSalle community.
Yeah, and look at this. This is just really awesome. And I think ever since we started Tri-State Football, Dan Flynn, Tom Grippa, Coach Fleming even on basketball, everybody's been great and very supportive of what we do. And, for us, you guys do what you do really well. And we just want to sort of compliment everybody in there. There's enough kids out there. There's enough Matt Kroger stories of the world every week. And we hope we hit all those. At some point, we may not be a Player of the Week kid, but a kid at Taylor, we missed him for Player of the Week because his stats didn't come up early. But he had back-to-back games of 280 yards rushing. I had to put up something about the kid. So there's great stories every week.
That's my favorite thing. And Matt Kroger's not. I'm sure you know the story. He's not a starter. I mean, he's a kid that got in some time at the end, and I don't do this as much as you do. You're the professional. We're just a bunch of schlep rocks here. But I got to tell you, those are the folks that I enjoy personally doing stories on, and I got to believe you too, are those guys that don't see the field on a regular basis.
Well, and when we started this, I hadn't been to a high school football game in 25 years. I played high school basketball. I played high school baseball. I had no concept. I was from Springfield, Ohio. I went to Springfield Catholic, little school, and I had no concept of GCL South football. But the first year I did this, I thought everybody I saw on Friday night that had a great game was going to go play in college somewhere. And little did I know, those ended up being the great stories. You know, the kids from a CHCA or a Matt Kroger again. It's just been awesome to cover these kids. And then we watch a kid like a Drew Coomer, you know, from the time he's a sophomore all the way up to now, and following him and DeVere as well.
DeVere's playing on Sunday, for those that don't know. Lester Gene Lester. I always get the names confused. Starting wide receiver, pulled a hammy. He's out for this week, and DeVere is going to be starting for his first game. Actually, I don't know if he's starting, but he's going to be playing on this Sunday. Question I have for you is two questions. Number one, do you sense that some of the smaller schools, because I was at Kings doing this same thing to a smaller scale at Kings for about 5-6 years under Andy Olds, but I sense that some of the smaller schools, the New Richmonds, the Batavias, the Go Parks, when they see Tri-State football come in, that's big. I mean, they know they are in the spotlight. Not to say these folks out here don't, but this is big-time football here, and I think in the GCL South you would agree. It means more to those folks, and for you, that's got to be exciting to go to some of those smaller schools as well.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, every week there's always a quality GCL South game when we get to after the mid part of the year. But those teams that you're talking about, you know, the first 5 weeks of the year are very important. A New Richmond who's 4-1 or a Batavia who's 5-0 right now, well, you don't know how much longer they're going to last. So we try to get out there and see those teams and see those coaches. And, you know, I try to get in to see as many people as I can. And, you know, we're covering 144 schools, 29 in Kentucky, and, you know, we can talk about the Kentucky. I think
as a nice segue into what I wanted to talk about is the competition level. Does it drop off in Kentucky, in your opinion?
Absolutely. Really, to me, there are two big schools in Kentucky, Trinity and St. X. The Division VI schools that are playing in that level are not anywhere close. The
fighting an uphill battle, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're more like a 5A school. You know,
right.
They'd be much better off playing in a league with Kings and Anderson and being much more competitive there. They just don't have a chance against those two schools. And I would love to see something like a Greater Catholic League expansion where you got a couple of the Indy teams and the two schools from Louisville and just make it a bigger Greater Catholic League, because the Division I schools here on this side of the river, you know, because of the Harbin points, they're not going to be playing the LaSalle's and Moeller's of the world. You get a GWAC team on your schedule or GCL or a GMC school on your schedule at LaSalle. That's a pretty big deal because these teams are really straying away from what you guys bring.
Folks, if you want to talk to Greg Shoemaker, you can dial us up. Mike and I running the board, executive producer, at 818-301-5821, 818-301-5821. Also, check us out on Twitter. I got a tweet here from Fritzy saying less than 90 minutes till kickoff. Do we need to know that? We're here, brother.
Thanks, Fritz. We appreciate it.
So thanks a lot for Fritzy lighting us up on Twitter. Let me ask you, any surprises this year? Talk about some of the teams that maybe, everybody knows Moeller's good. You go down the list. How about Lakota West? We just talked about a little bit before we went on the air. They surprised me. You maybe not?
I think they're good at their very first level players. And then after that, depth will be a problem. There's always a stumbling block down the road. And tonight, I was always – Princeton's one of the biggest disappointments for me of the year. When you guys played
they're the only winless
3,
team in Region 4.
When you guys played in Week 3, I thought, before the year started that, okay, this game's going to mean something. The loser of this game could actually be knocked out of the playoffs. Right. Well, little did I know Princeton knocked themselves out that week. But unfortunately for you guys, it's going to be tough to gain. I thought that was a 7-win team.
Then you couple that with Indianapolis Northwest, who's when it was a 4-year contract that was signed 3 years ago, and they were okay. And, you'd think most teams that are bad, they get better. Well, they've just kind of stayed in the toilet for that matter.
Big shout out to Joel Bella listening to the broadcast right now. Says, leave it on the field tonight, men, so that the exhaustion of battle, win or lose, you can hold your head high without regret. Also, good luck from, how about Andrew Coomer? That's a popular name around these parts. Good luck to the Lancers tonight. Always feels good to beat Mo. He says, Lancers roll deep. Good broadcast, Bret and Barrett and Bossy. Go Lancers. Michael.
Speaking of Coomers, I'd like to congratulate Anthony Coomer on the birth of his son Joseph.
How many Coomers are there?
A boatload. 3, I believe. I don't know. I remember, you talk about getting old and how you know you're getting old. I used to play basketball against Mr. Coomer in our alumni. There's 5 Coomers. Okay, I would play basketball against his father in the alumni basketball league here on Sunday nights, which has been running forever. And we've had our team together for 12, 13 years, and now all of a sudden I'm playing against the boys. So either I'm getting old or they're getting younger these days. I'm not sure what's going on.
So talking about some other prizes, we talked about, I thought Lakota West, and you said, and I kind of agreed, depth, and that's kind of been a problem with LaSalle. I think LaSalle competes. We talked about, I'm getting off topic here. LaSalle competes, I think, very evenly with all the other GCL South schools. Perhaps depth is always a question. Brett, I guess you can chime in on that as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. When you start looking at the between the GCL and the GMC, I mean, a little bit about myself. I coached here 4 years, then I coached 3 years at Moeller, and then I went to Oak Hills, and I was there the last 6 years. I got over there, and everybody says, "Oh, you've got so many students in the building, and so many students. You just don't have that many players, and not that many kids want to play football. It's just, and I know Coach Grippa when he was at Elder, and then he went to Fairfield, and then he came here. He said after being at the 2 GCL schools and a GMC school, he said the difference between the GCL schools is 80% of the people are really into it, and 20% don't care. At the GMC school, it was the exact opposite, and so I think that's where the depth factor comes in a lot of times.
Well, Oak Hills is playing sort of behind an 8 ball. The best kids.
Tell me about it.
Are going to Elder.
How much time you got?
But every year, and I live over in Antoninus Parish, so every year I'm watching 300 boys a year from those feeder schools. Go straight to St. X, and Elder's not getting those kids either.
Right.
So, and what do you think's happening over at Turpin and Anderson? Same thing from St. X, and Lakota West, it's Moeller taking those kids.
That's exactly right.
So,
exactly right.
GMC schools, a lot of those kids play against each other, the Catholics, up until 8th grade, and Jarrett Grace is one of those kids that sort of got away. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, unfortunately, he got away and went to Coleraine, and we had to play in Week 10 every year, playing next to a guy named Joe Bolden. Try lining up against those cats, and a guy named Andre Jones, who's going to be starting at UC here in a year or two.
So who do you see making the playoffs? It's early, obviously, but who do you see making the playoffs if you could look at your Greg Shoemaker crystal ball here in the region? That's actually all. We'll go through the whole city, but specifically in Region 4.
I like Springboro and Lebanon to both get there. Loveland has got to win this week against Anderson and got to win next week against Winton Woods. Winton Woods is going to give them great second-level Harbin points if they can get past that.
What about Winton Woods tonight?
Winton Woods.
Jonathan Alder. Plain City Jonathan
Alder. Hold on.
I know. You know where I'm going with this.
We go head-to-head at 7, but you're going to be over Mount Healthy. We go head-to-head at 7 o'clock. So if you got your answer yet, I don't want you seeing. I don't want you changing it when he starts giving the experts here, and he's going to be giving you his. All right.
Well, I'm in there with you. So.
Okay. Good.
So you agree?
Yeah, we agree. Winton Woods.
I do think you're going to see a couple of teams. Wayne's got the win over Winton Woods. That's a big factor in them getting to the next level. Winton Woods, Wayne. You're going to see Wayne, maybe Lebanon, and Springboro. The winner of that last game between Springboro and Lebanon, and that's going to be a big difference. Right now, the only difference between Loveland not being in the playoffs is their loss to Lebanon right now. If we started it tomorrow because Lebanon's number 8 in the Harbin. So I still think we're going to get 2 to 3 teams.
Is Loveland kind of that Walnut Hills team from last year? Do you
no, Springboro's that team. Really,
that team?
But Springboro's playing enough Division I schools. But the Xenias and the Fairborns of the world are still really basically playing a lower level Division I.
Right.
So.
Let me ask you this: I got a friend of mine, my guy who was my coaching mentor, coming up through college and got me into coaching and everything. He now lives in Hot Springs, Arkansas. He follows Tri-State football all the time. When I was coaching, now I'm doing this. How often do you get correspondence from people around the country?
Every week, and it's kind of cool. Some coaches now that we've latched onto have asked me, who are good kids. Division II, like Coach Huber over at Mount St. Joe's is always got guys he's looking for, and the same thing.
Hey, Greg, who you got, Greg?
Exactly right.
Come on, give me some dirt, Greg.
I keep telling him to quit getting kids out of the Southern Buckeye Athletic Conference.
That's exactly right.
There's enough kids in the GMC and GCL that are playing that are winners.
Well, at Oak Hills, we call it the University of Delhi.
There. Exactly. So, but I do like Wayne getting in. They're getting stronger as the season goes on. I think they're very dangerous with Harrison, their quarterback. I don't want to play them. Middletown's out right now. As far as I still like Mason, and I think Mason is. This is a tough game tonight. This is a tough game.
Whoever scheduled homecoming at Mason, who scheduled that one?
Who scheduled Moeller at LaSalle?
Well, why not?
Thank you. Go ahead.
There you go. Bring them on, brother. Bring them on.
It's a tough game, but if somehow they could manage to win that, they're going to get over that hump and get in. Now they got Sycamore the last week of the year. Sycamore's not going to be playing like they did in Week 10 again last year. I think Sycamore's in again. Their schedule's conducive to them going into the playoffs and sitting players again in Week 10 against Mason like they did last year.
All right, we got a couple more minutes. Let's get tonight's game. Your thoughts on tonight's game, Moeller. LaSalle Moeller coming off a big loss last week. The Lancers, well, we can probably say it now. The quarterback situation, suspect tonight. We got Burkhart has a hurt shoulder. He's questionable whether he's going to start tonight. We haven't promoted that much. We probably can now. Moeller's already in the stadium. But your thoughts having that information?
Well, got them all running. There they go. Hey, we got some dirt, Burkhart.
Last year when Moeller fell from the ranks of the unbeaten, they really fell hard. And tonight, LaSalle's got an opportunity. They got to get out on them early. 6 touchdowns on unconventional returns already at this point of the season. Another one tonight for LaSalle would be great if they can get one in the return game. Get anything they can do to get Moeller back on their heels. And those kids that played last year, that when they started losing, they get that back in their mind that, hey, we're reeling. That will go big and a long way in this game. And the quarterback situation is going to, if I'm Moeller and I find that out, I'm going to be blitzing a lot. I'm going to be bringing a lot of pressure toward the young quarterbacks.
Freshman
Freshman
coming in there. He's a good one.
Did you get to see him play the first game against?
I did not, but I saw he had over 300 yards coming off the bench. He
struggled in game 2, though. He struggled in game 2, but had an absolutely.
We always, I talked about it on air while he was playing that first game, and we knew that he was probably going to play the second game. I said, there's a big difference when they just throw you in and say go play versus having a whole week to think about it.
Greg, I know you got to get over to Mount Healthy. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. And hopefully you won't be a stranger. We'll see you back here again.
Anytime. I'd love to be here.
Great. Next Friday. We'll see you at See, don't say that to me. We'll be back. Thanks, Greg Shoemaker, for joining us. Coming up next, Lonesome George Vogel from WLWT Channel 5. When we come back, you're listening to the best high school sports coverage in Cincinnati. WLSN, the worldwide leader in high school sports.